Day 39. Whew. Lord, a man do work in his day. But perhaps that recompense. You know what I'm saying? Y'all don't know what I'm saying. Oh, shit. Let me... wait, Sonichu. Alright, so that's all there, and then let's let people know in the various channels where I do my dirty deeds daily. Jesus Christ. Alright, so I should have thought a little bit more about this here. Let's start with an edit of this chapter, since I don't know where I'm going next. Yes, hello, I'm Zach ZYZ. You're just tuning in for the first time or whatever. For the last 39 days, we have been working on, it's almost like 40 days and 40 nights. I've been working on the rewrite of this book called RAPAXORIS. It's sort of like a dungeon crawling, swords and magic and demons and all the things that make the world go around. So I've been working on that for the last 40 days or so. The original book probably took about 3 years to write, and the edit is going to be fairly extensive and brutal right here. But what's happening at this point, if you're on the YouTube channel, you can take a look, and we have like a chapter by chapter synopsis that just details the things that have gone thus far. But essentially, a thief broke into a tower and stole a magic orb. 4 people are chasing after him. Stirs the Hook, who's in this chapter, Yellow Hat the Bard, El Shala, the sorcerer's daughter, and Revel V. Ramos, a boobish nobleman. The 2 fugitives are a man named Fish, who's an old man who has forgotten his name, and Rigel, a cunning young boy who has been pressed into a life of thievery by the untimely death of his father, saddling him with tremendous gambling and drug debts that he has no way to pay. And Fish and Rigel are bound for a mountain called RAPAXORIS, said to be the legendary home of the High Ones, some sort of deal-making devil-type figures. So the story thus far, we have found ourselves where the pursuers are finally going to catch up with the fugitives in this chapter. This is a full rewrite. I wrote RAPAXORIS, I want to say, mostly 5 or 6 years ago, when I didn't really know how to write. And of course, I thought I knew how to write. I already had a book out at the time, and it was doing okay. And I was like, yeah, I got this under control. I can write a giant, sprawling fantasy novel. Wrong, nigga. Very wrong. Over the past 2 years, basically since COVID started, back in 2019, I started doing this editing online, and it has been a brutal experience for yours truly. Oh, did I forget to link this in the one place where people actually pay attention? I did. All right. Boom. So yeah, for the last 2 years, I want to say, I have been very steadily working on getting better at editing. I wrote one new novel, which is this guy right here. Finished an older novel, and then I finished editing another novel, and then I also, what was the other thing that I did there? I did a short novella that was mainly comedic in nature. So I've been working pretty hard there, And I now am hopefully a powerful enough writer to take this book, which was the closest that I've ever gotten to like a big traditional publishing deal was this one. It made it to the second round at a good publisher, and then they were just like, we're not going to put the time into editing this to make it right. And though I was crushed at the time, they're absolutely right. I can now see all the things that are fucking wrong with this story, and hopefully fix some of them because there really is under like all the scabby tissue of a writer that just doesn't know enough about tenses and just over expository and so forth, and some weakness in the structure, which is very rambling. There really is the core of a good story here. You might ask, like, what is the core of a good story? It's characters that people have an emotional resonance with, where they want to find out what happens to them. And already in the edit, we can see some people like some of these characters want to know what's going to happen to them next. It's not just I'll just throw them into the who cares if a demon fucking eats them or whatever there. So now that we have that structure where we feel like these 40 days have largely been working with the first book of this story. This story is set up into either 6 or 7 books. I can't recall. So the first 100 pages of the novel are like the critical ones where somebody is going to read through your book or they're not. After you get 100 pages, they're yours for the most part. You have to fuck up really badly for the standard fantasy reader to stop reading after they're 100 pages in. But it's very easy to fuck up at any time. It's very easy to like critically fuck something up. If you do something that's completely out of nature for a character that they like, or you take a particular turn that they just like, I'm out, I don't like hearing about this, and so forth. Just lots of there are lots of ways that you can still fuck this up after 100 pages, but if you don't get them within that first 100 pages, you will never get them. So that's why I've been editing at a rate of about 2 pages a day, very slowly, doing several passes on some of these chapters because they're really quite choppy. So this is a brand new one that we're rewriting all of 1.11. I do not have a lot of time today. Later today, we'll be doing an AMA with Craig Martell, who is the guy who is a writer with like an ungodly number of books out, and he's the founder of the Facebook group 20 Books to 50K. The idea that if you have 20 books in circulation, you can earn roughly 50K a year on royalties and potentially just make a living as an independent author, which it was kind of revolutionary at the time where he came up with it. It's not working for me, but I don't have 20 books out there. All right. Well, now that screed is done, this is RAPAXORIS by Zach Z. Wisey. Chapter 1.11. And shout out to everybody who watched the IRC Dungeons and Dragons last night. We had our second episode last night. It went pretty swimmingly. The party, I think, ambushed a bunch of people at a cave and wiped them out and recaptured a bunch of stolen weaponry. Nice. Logic almost died. And hold on. Jesus. Oh. I'm allergic to my own bullshit. This is RAPAXORIS by Zach Z. Wisey, read by the author, chapter 1.11. Storm coming, Stirs grunted. That should have been all. Stirs the Hook wasn't a man who wasted words. Others listened when he spoke if they knew what was good for them. Okay. So, let me get to our chat. Shit. Hold on, my nose is exploding. Jesus. Oh, God. I'm glad that sleepy dog is on the case, because, oh, my God. Fucking dying here. There's not a cloud in the sky, Revel observed. It was indeed a fine day. The four adventurers rode beneath an azure sky, past blooming banks that rang with birdsong. This is too much. Yeah, do dappled promise. It's fucking wretched. It was indeed a fine day. The four adventurers rode beneath an azure sky, past blooming banks. Yeah. Past. Mm, yeah, blooming in spring and summer. Uh, yeah. And then how do you pronounce hydrangea? I think it's just hydrangea. Yeah.
Hydrangea.
Hydrangea. Better audio in D&D stream. Now I can watch it without post-it covering Zartan's beard. Yeah, it really was like a very, very simple error on the previous stream. But also, like, I added like a little cheap overlay. Watching by listening to it and not watching. Yeah, it was cool. They had a fun time. It's a shame that the first adventure, like, the levels were fucked up. But I did not. So Spathy, today I have an AMA with the guy that runs 20 books to 50K at 10 a.m. So that should be interesting. Very emasculating beard. Yeah, man. I don't know what I would do. Like, um, I still wouldn't grow a beard like that if I could, because I don't need anything. I don't need any buffers to the interface between my face and Cunny. But at the same time, it's a pretty impressive beard, man. He definitely looks the part as the party's druid. Yeah, I'm with you though. Yeah, I can't grow that fucking beard. All right, hold on. Let me. I think somebody not math is hollering at a guy. Okay. Somebody was just saying that if I go to prison, it won't be a Virginia State prison. Oh, I wish that was true. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Really, he should say something else here. Mm-hmm. Nonsense. It's a fine day, Rebel. Revel contradicted. I don't think you can use contradicted there. Nonsense. It's a fine day, Revel argued. Far too chipper for a man who'd woke with a trout in his bed. Stirs inhaled sharply through his nose. It was indeed a fine day. Does hydrangea have a smell? Yeah. Huh. Rare and precocious shrub. So there's a particular hydrangea that smells good. Huh. Wow, -40. Holy shit. Mm-hmm. Rare and precocious shrubs. Uh, we'll just call them fragrant hydrangea. Stirs clenched his oar and counted to 10. A jackass was bound to bray. Brawls on boats always ended bad. Fighters floating face down. I can't get away with that. I want to, but there's no fucking way. You can't do that. All right, hold on, let me. Brawls on boats always went bad. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we know. I do like a jackass was bound to bray. Mm-hmm. Stirs the hook knew how to wait on a hate. Revel was so. Stirs the hook knew how to wait on a hate. Every impertinent quip and churlish smirk stoked the fire in his gut. Revel was so smug with his white teeth and castle steel. He had no idea what Stirs could do to him. He would find out. Soon enough. If only the bitch wasn't Araf's daughter. Mm-hmm. Cool. So I like the then what structure. So we can repeat that just once. Mm-hmm. Ooh, a brawl on a boat was always a bad idea. Yeah, I think I lose. A jackass is bound to bray. I don't see a. It was indeed. Yeah. Okay, I like that. So I'm just changing that up a little bit, so that there's like that note of tension, and we start to establish the pattern that like every time this guy talks, Stairs is like, she weren't his, only if I want him to have some of that frying in the back of his brain, and to kind of like talk a little bit like this is what Stirs is all about. Um, they really have made a dangerous choice by taking a junkie and a leg breaker as their rowers. Real talk. Freedom upon the Rakar was no freedom at all. Mm. Mm-hmm. Then what? Freedom upon the Rakar was no freedom at all. Yeah, we can't do that one. You would have to abandon the bard and flee the city. No, and there's no. Freedom upon the Rakar was no freedom at all. Stirs had glimpsed giant shadow. He could scarcely pilot the four-man canoe back to Laz with only one man and a spindly cane fiend rowing. Even if they could somehow make it back alive, too many people had seen Stirs and Yellowhat embark with the Duke's son and the Archmage's daughter. Mm-hmm. Let's see. Oh yeah, that's so. Stirs could scarcely pilot the four-man canoe back to Laz with only himself and a spindly cane fiend rowing. Even if they could somehow make it back alive, too many people had seen Stirs and Yellowhat embark. Yeah, I don't like that conditional there. I suppose he could somehow make it back. Too many people. Yeah, yeah. 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 Yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing it right here. No, I don't like that at all. Yeah. Then, too many people had seen Stirs and Yellowhat embark with the Duke's son and the Archmage's daughter. Stirs could withstand interrogation, but Yellowhat would spill everything for a single puff of cane. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we just have to take. Mm-hmm. Oh, are you fucking serious? Recapture? There we go. Freedom upon the Rakar. Oh, speaking of which, you can actually get points for this guy. So I'm going to give you 2 for your meritorious edits thus far. They would have to go back. I like that. Stirs was stuck. Even if he could make it to another city, it was only a different kind of doom. On the planks of Tinkerton, everyone knew what Stirs the Hook was about. His name was built on a solid foundation of dark deeds and dead men. If he ran off to Kaz or Iran, he would just be Stirs. One more graying brute with nothing to offer that someone younger and dumber couldn't do. One more graying brute with nothing someone younger and dumber couldn't do better. I don't like that. Yeah. Just another graying brute with nothing to offer that someone younger and dumber couldn't do better. That's like kind of a mouthful right there. Stirs had nothing to offer that couldn't be done by someone younger and dumber. I like that. That's better. Bad way to go. Okay, cool. I do feel like it really is quite a lot of inside somebody's head. Okay, so we're only like a page right there. We can Stir shook his head and rode on. Thoughts were worthless, whirls in the eddy of an oar. His time would come. By mid-morning, the party could see the first peaks of the old gods rising above the treetops in the west. By noon, they could see all 7 spires. By mid-morning, the party could see the nearest peaks of the old gods rising above the treetops in the west. By noon, they could see all 7 spires. Grandest of these was the RAPAXORIS, High Mountain. Stirs knew the word, mountain, though he had never laid eyes on one before. Yeah, why? Stirs knew the word mountain, though he had never seen one before. His imagination fell far short of the mark. The biggest thing he could conceive Oh, I can't put that in. I know what I'm trying to say right here. He just has trouble comprehending the size of it. But you can't put the suggestion that something might be an illusion into the story. Readers will always like hop on top of that and they'll spend the rest of the book. Well, maybe the place is an illusion. Like, no, it's not. Revel's voice interrupted his dreadful contemplation. Ugh. No, I don't like that. His dreadful thoughts were interrupted by Revel's voice. Okay, cool. So there we're trying to transition. Um, No matter how he squinted. Okay, so let's take a look. Sturz knew the word mountain, though he had never seen one before. His imagination fell far short of the mark. The biggest thing Sturz could conceive was pitiful. Oh, that doesn't work. His grandest imaginings were pitiful in the face of the monsters on the horizon, which grew grander with every stroke. I like that. Nothing should be so big. I like that. That's more Sturzy. Hoeksprek. Sturz knew the word mountain, though he had never seen one before. His grandest imaginings were pitiful in the face of the monsters on the horizon. Those monsters on the horizon. The seven spires grew grander with every stroke. Sturz's guts churned with disquiet each time he glanced at the RAPAXORIS. Nothing should be so big. Up ahead, Revel hissed, breaking through Sturz's dread. He pointed upriver. What is it? Sturz croaked. He gripped the oar so tight his knuckles popped. Oh, could that even fucking happen if you've been rowing on? No, that can't happen. Yeah, because all the air is like forced out at that point. I'm not quite begged. Implored is perfect. What is it? Stirs implored. It's them, Revel whispered back. No matter how he squinted, Stirs could not make them out. I like this. Yeah. Yellowhat was too addled. El Shalah was too nearsighted. They poured effort onto the oars, and by mid-afternoon... Mm-hmm. It was Revel and Fish. Victory was at hand. Mm-hmm. 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 Okay, I like that. Cool. Um, that's not what I fucking want. Eights. Okay. So I now do think that I want to do a POV swap for this chapter because that's really like almost all I have to say about Stirs the Hook at the present time. Let's make sure. Mhm. The premonitions of his busted knuckles were never wrong. Okay, cool. Yeah, I really like just this little insight into Stirs the Hook. There are other chapters that I can identify later on, just thinking about it here, where we're going to swap them over to Stirs POV, because some of the relationships that he forms in the story, we really need to see, like, through his eyes, how he feels about certain characters that are coming up. Um, so now that we're here, let's look back to. So there's a storm coming in. We have not gotten to. So we just basically did part one of this whole thing. So this could be several pieces of a story right here. So we want to get to the revelation that it's raining in the mountains, and I think what we talked about was maybe having Fish and Rigel having enough woodscraft to be like, okay, it's a bad idea to be on a river in the middle of a thunderstorm, and I agree. It's a stupid idea. Um, so I like the thought that they know and the Shants do not know. So I think I'm going to go that way. Okay. Um, so um, we can. It's too short to be a chapter, right? This is 3 pages. 3 pages is it's a tough sell for a chapter. Very very brief. Um, but we want to think about is it 4 pages? If it's 4 pages, I could break a chapter. But fucking three, I can't do. Yeah, three is too short. Really, we want to be about 7 pages for each of our chapters there. Um, so probably, um, and the other part is I want to have some room to fucking maneuver with the next chapters. So what we want to do is the second half of this chapter. Let's have it be a POV split. Um, this is a strong question as to whether you want the next chapter to be from the POV of Rigel versus Fish, since we're writing something new here. Fish is kind of interesting because there are all kinds of things he's supposed to remember about going into the RAPAXORIS that he just can't. Um, and but it may be more interesting to have it like be a question for the reader right there, and just see this through like the eyes of like this boy who is like seeing like these trees that have been turned into obsidian and shattered, and like the creepy woods and so forth. Also, if we're thinking about like they're at a river and they're getting up into the peak of a mountain, um, mountains don't like, we're not describing like a canyon here, at this point. Like the river is kind of low and sloping, so the pursuit has to take some time through the storm, and it needs to be like hitting from mid-afternoon to night. So um, if we think about how mountains actually work, it's a little bit difficult to have the what you want to call it. Um, we have to think about like how far would they actually have to go to get from like a river that's in the center of a valley to an entrance to the peak of a mountain. Most of the valleys that I'm familiar with are like the Shenandoah Valley and so forth there. Um, but it may, we may just have to like fudge it a little bit because I don't want this pursuit to take like days and days. Okay. So I think, as I think about it, I think we cap off this chapter with just sort of Revel getting some of, or Rigel, seeing some of the parts of the intro to the RAPAXORIS. We see it through his eyes, um, and the entering the cave and so forth. Like, how does Rigel feel about like, fuck, we're going into like a creepy cave with like a big demon face in it or whatever there. Um, and they can be surprised from the rear. And then we don't have to get into the fucking. We don't have to describe the entirety of them, like almost getting swept away and so forth. That can just be like an aside. Um, like these idiots are potentially getting swept away, and them having to abandon everything and fighting with each other. And of course, Revel was like, "I have to put on my armor," and all that whole. Um, I don't know how interesting that is to the reader to have like their bickering and so forth, and we can sweep it aside with just writing through it. All right, I have to prepare for the AMA. So at 10 a.m. today, I have an AMA with Craig Martell, who may have some interesting things to say. I'm interested just because he's former USMC. Those guys always have some fucking stories. I've never like I don't think it's possible to have like a fucking Marine Corps guy where if they're willing to talk at all, you can't find something interesting there because it's such a ridiculous experience that they lead. Hopefully, and I think that this guy is fairly legitimate in his outlook. He is a marketing dude, but he may not be as cringe markety as some of the other ones that I've talked with. So, high hopes for that. And thank you to everybody who tuned in. Big ups to yourself, to Spathiwa for catching some edits right there. Um, and yeah, good luck. You're making it along. Not too far behind the others. So this was just an hour and 22 minutes, and we didn't really. We're still on a rewrite. So. Uh, Poverty sections, yeah. And so, so 122. And whilst I'm here, a rare skulk for me. So Milkness probably watch and I won't ask dumb questions. I don't know how many people are gonna be involved with that. The problem with the Discord server is that the person who runs the AMAs was out. All right, so let me see. Yeah. So we didn't have as much time as we would normally have to prepare the whole thing. So day 38 was 1 hour and 34 minutes. Okay. And day 37 was just 36 minutes, really. Yeah, that's a very short. Okay, so this is not a trend right here, but I do periods of like actually writing are usually like a little bit shorter, but this was more of an editing thing. So hopefully tomorrow I'll write the new section with seeing the Rapasaurus through the eyes of Rigel. So that gives us like a whole different outlook than this kind of confused, like nobody's really got like a strong POV or whatever type thing. So I'm gonna have to think on it and gander up, and hopefully we'll have a good time. All right, well, thank you everybody, and I will be back shortly with an AMA on this very channel.